By the late 1960s, Nigel Kneale no longer needed science fiction as camouflage. The warning had already been issued. Authority had been shown to rush, to deny, to assert itself arrogantly, and finally to collapse through exhaustion. The question was no longer whether institutions could fail. The question was whether they could fail knowingly. The year of the Sex Olympics is Kneale's most direct answer. There is no panic here, no confusion, no breakdown of systems under unexpected strain. Everything is working exactly as intended. That is what makes it so disturbing. The society depicted in the year of the Sex Olympics is not chaotic, it is managed. Ratings are tracked, behaviour is analysed, content is calibrated, decisions are justified through data, not belief. The institutions at the centre of the play are calm, rational, and fully aware of the consequences of their actions. They simply do not care. This marks a crucial shift in Kneale's thinking. Earlier dramas expose authority as inadequate, unable to respond quickly or wisely to crisis. Here, authority responds perfectly. The system functions, and that function is the problem. The world of the year of the Sex Olympics is governed by audience metrics. Violence, sex, humiliation, and spectacle are not excesses. They are outputs, refined to maximize engagement. The people running the system do not see themselves as villains. They see themselves as professionals. What Kneale understands, long before it becomes fashionable, is that ethical collapse rarely announces itself as corruption. It arrives dressed as efficiency. The producers and executives in the play do not argue about morality. They argue about formats, about pacing, about audience retention, about whether boredom is a greater danger than cruelty. The language of management replaces the language of responsibility. This is a more advanced form of institutional failure than anything in Quatermass. There, authority resisted action because it feared disruption. Here, authority embraces harm because it stabilizes the system. The cruelty is not accidental, it is strategic. What makes the play so precise is Kneale's refusal to exaggerate. The performances are restrained, the tone is conversational. The future it depicts feels plausible because it is not dramatic. People are not screaming, they are adjusting sliders. The most chilling moments come not from the content broadcast to the public, but from the meetings behind the scenes. Decisions about human suffering are made with the same detachment as decisions about scheduling. No one believes they are doing evil. They believe they are responding to demand. This is the logic Kneale dismantles. Demand in this world is not an expression of desire. It is a product of conditioning. Audiences have been trained to crave intensity because nothing else is offered. The system creates the appetite it claims to serve, and then uses that appetite as justification. This is authority not paralysed by procedure, but liberated by it. There is no hesitation here, no doubt, no need for denial. The harm is visible, measured, and accepted. Kneale's brilliance lies in showing how ethical responsibility dissolves once decision-making is abstracted. When suffering becomes data, nobody feels accountable. Each individual can point to the system. Each department can cite necessity. Each choice becomes inevitable. This is what distinguishes the year of the Sex Olympics from dystopian satire. It does not imagine a tyrant imposing cruelty. It imagines a network of reasonable people agreeing that cruelty is the least disruptive option. That is Kneale's true target. The play is often discussed as a critique of television, but that framing is too narrow. What Kneale is really examining is institutional self-preservation. The system must continue. Ratings must be maintained. Stability must be preserved. Everything else is negotiable. Earlier in Kneale's work, catastrophe results from ignorance or arrogance. Here, catastrophe results from clarity. Everyone understands the consequences, and the consequences are deemed acceptable. This is the end state of procedural thinking. Once ethics are removed from decision-making, systems become extraordinarily resilient and extraordinarily dangerous. There is no external threat in the year of the Sex Olympics, no invasion, no unknown force. The danger is entirely internal. That makes resistance almost impossible. How do you oppose a system that can explain itself perfectly? The characters who express discomfort are not silenced violently, they are marginalized politely. Their objections are acknowledged, noted, and then absorbed without effect. The system does not crush dissent, it renders it irrelevant. This is perhaps Kneale's most pessimistic insight. Totalitarianism is loud, bureaucratic cruelty is quiet, and quiet cruelty is easier to live with. The audience within the play becomes complicit, not because they are wicked, but because they are bored. Stimulation replaces meaning. Escalation replaces engagement. The institutions respond by escalating further. It is a closed loop. By the time the most extreme measures are taken, they are framed not as moral failures, but as technical solutions. Problems are solved. Numbers improve. The system congratulates itself. Placed after the Quatermass serials, the year of the Sex Olympics reads as the logical conclusion of Kneale's argument. Once authority learns how to protect itself from responsibility, once it discovers that it can function without ethics, collapse is no longer dramatic. It becomes normal. This is why the play feels so contemporary. The language of optimization, engagement, and audience demand is instantly recognizable. The idea that systems justify harm by pointing to metrics is no longer speculative. Kneale saw this coming because he understood something fundamental about modern institutions. They prefer harm that can be measured over responsibility that cannot. In this world, nobody waits too long to act. Nobody denies evidence. Nobody clings to outdated assumptions. The system adapts perfectly. That adaptability is its final corruption. There is no catharsis at the end of the year of the Sex Olympics, no revolt, no awakening. The system continues, slightly adjusted, confident in its own necessity. Kneale offers no solution because the play is not a warning about a specific future, it is a diagnosis of a structural condition. Once authority divorces function from responsibility, there is no internal mechanism to restore ethics. Everything works, nothing matters. That is why the year of the Sex Olympics occupies such a central place in Kneale's work. It is not science fiction, it is not satire, it is not prophecy. It is the moment where the question of authority stops being dramatic and becomes administrative. And that, for Kneale, is the most frightening outcome of all, because systems that fail can be challenged. Systems that succeed at doing the wrong thing are almost impossible to stop. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. There's plenty of Nigel Kneale stuff on the channel. I will put a playlist on the end screen, and I will be back with another television show on another day. Bye.